All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Monday, June 17th. We have is it 9? I think 9 games on today's MLB slate. Yeah, 9 games to jump into. Like we always do, when we go through each and every one of these games, I'm going to give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself, all of those plays are going to be in the pinned comment of this video, updated throughout the day. In terms of last night, it was a lot of work, a little bit of a bloodbath, but we do come out on top with a nice little 5-3 night there. And even the ones that we cashed, other than the Nolan Gorman under 1.5 bases, honestly, some pretty good odds there. -110, -125, -115. So we like to see it. The Giants exploded in the 4th inning, 9 runs to help us cash that, first 5 run line. But nonetheless, I'll take a 5-3 night any day of the week. We didn't have a ride of the day. I was out on the golf course with my dad celebrating Father's Day, and we just didn't really get to it. So we're going to run it back today, though, guys. Use the hashtag ride of the day in the comments. Drop an absolute banger of a pick that you have, and I'll be jumping on board with one person's pick, and you'll get a shout out in the next video, win or loss. So make sure you get those hashtag ride of the days in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's buckle up and jump into this 9-game slate. Obviously, Thursdays, usually a little bit less games, and that's exactly what we have today. So let's go ahead and jump into it. But yeah, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Appreciate all the new people and the OGs that have come across the channel as of late. But starting off, we got Philly taking on San Diego here. Philly coming off of a tough series against Baltimore. They win game number 1 and then lose 2 and 3. Kind of got smoked in those 2 and 3 games, honestly. I thought yesterday was going to be a way better game. We did have the over, but that was really a one-sided Baltimore win. But San Diego's coming off of getting swept by the Mets in like 3 different ways. 2-1 in game number 1, 5-1 game number 2, and then 11-6 yesterday. I do think San Diego's going to kind of come in here with some fire, and maybe they score a few more runs than normal. But Randy Vasquez is on the mound for San Diego, going up against Chris Sanchez for the Phillies. So I think the starting pitching advantage is obviously all the way leaning towards Philadelphia. So unfortunately, the odds are kind of crazy at -170-ish right now for Philadelphia. I'm going to lean towards them, but if you are on San Diego, there is a few, I guess, bright spots here. One, they could have a little fire into their ass because they just got swept, right? That's always a good thing in the next series. But San Diego's been pretty damn inconsistent, so I don't even know if we can bank on that. But 2, you do have Chris Sanchez, who is extremely good against left-handed hitters. There's only a couple lefties in the San Diego lineup, and, you're probably going to have to get through Luis Arias, and then that's kind of the only big bat that they have that's a lefty. Other than that, it's righties, in which Sanchez does struggle a little bit more. So if you are on San Diego, if you do think you're going to try and take that +160 flyer, maybe you are able to say, I don't know if Sanchez is going to deal against this team. But overall, I just can't really see Randy Vasquez holding down this Philly lineup. So I'm going to lean towards like I said, the Phillies. I do think that this has a chance of going over. I think the Padres can get to, 4 runs maybe, and I think the Phillies could probably put up 6 today. So maybe we look at a team total for the Phillies as well. That way we don't have to rely on San Diego's bats, but that's probably the direction that we're going to lean in. Make sure to keep an eye on the pinned comment to see what we do with that. But yeah, I almost wanted to get to the Padres, even though I love betting the Phillies this year, but I just couldn't find the lane, especially with Vasquez on the mound. All right, Pittsburgh taking on Cincinnati. Paul Skeens on the mound for Pittsburgh. 2.4 ERA this season with a .96 whip, a FIP of 2.5, an expected FIP of 1.96, batting average against of 213. His home numbers are a little bit skewed in the negative version just because some of his worst starts have come at home, but overall, I think we should expect him to be able to pitch fairly well against the Cincy team that doesn't exactly go out there and crush right-handed pitchers, right? On the mound for Cincy is going to be Carson Spears, who has pitched this season in relief innings, getting his first start here today, but he's looked, his numbers are okay, right? But again, you're looking at a guy that hasn't started. I think he started 2 games last year, so I don't really want to say like, oh, well, the numbers look good. Like we'd like to see this guy start a game, correct? But overall, like this Pittsburgh the Pittsburgh bats don't worry me a ton. Even playing, Colorado, like they had 1 game where they kind of scored the Coors Field special of like more runs than normal. So I don't think that it's going to be a high scoring game regardless. I think when I look at this total immediately, or just look at this game immediately, I think maybe both these pitchers can have their way. So I see like a 4-3 win for Pittsburgh, which is sitting at 7, right? So I'm going to lean in that direction. And the only way that I could probably play this, due to the fact that Pittsburgh's so heavily juiced on the money line, and I do think that, if we are being honest about a pitching advantage, it's got to be Skeens, right? It's got to be Skeens. There we go. There's the music. But I do think that this is a spot for Pittsburgh to probably be able to be winning after 5. So that's the way that we can do it. Maybe first 5 run line. That way we can get some digestible odds. But overall, it's going to be tough to make that a final play just because, there's a lot of juice behind Pittsburgh, and it's because of Skeens, not because of their bats. So I'm a little bit concerned with betting on a team to try and win by at least 1 run after 5 when I don't think that their bats are anything special. So maybe the under, maybe the first 5 under could be a move in this one. Something that I like a little bit more than picking a side here, just kind of picking the pace of the game. Real quick, before we jump into the rest of the games, I did want to talk to you guys about Outlier. You've seen this on the channel plenty, one of my favorite partners that we work with, because I think they have an unbelievably unbeatable tool. Right now, we're on the game screen, which is great because you can look at trends, where the money is, and everything like that. You can also dive into games and start to get a better idea of what we're looking at. Alternate lines, you're getting all the odds, you see the injuries, the insights, all that good stuff. What I really like is looking at the player props here. This is a player prop screen. We have it filtered specifically to this game, but you can go in and say, okay, O'Neal Cruz over 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, right? Well, he's done it in 7 of his last 10. He's done it in 4 of his last 5, in 10 of his last 20, head-to-head 2 of his last 3. This season you can see what he's done, but what I love is scrolling down saying, okay, actually against right-handed pitchers, he jumps up, right? So does the WRC plus. The green is good, red is bad. Batting average against for Spears goes up against left-handed batters. Even down to the level of the pitch mix, you can see what he does with these pitches and where he likes to throw them, guys. Super, super cool tool. And what's really cool about it is, okay, so minus 155 on BetMGM, right? Let's click it. Continue to the browser. I don't think I'm logged in, but it's literally going to put this play in your bet slip, so you don't even have to go track and find it and hunt it down on the app. We have a link for Outlier in the pinned comment, guys. You're going to get 7 days free of this tool. I'll also put that link in the description, but you might be thinking 7 days free, what's the catch, right? There really is no catch other than after that, it's $19.99 per month, which is an absolutely unbeatable price for what you're getting in this tool. Go check it out, guys. If not for the 7 days free, go check it out. Outlier, that link is in the pinned comment. I love it for player props, but you can just start your sports betting research there overall. In fact, you know what? Go real quick, one more. This insights tab right here literally is a place to start. They give you plays that are trending, the odds that they're rolling with, that type of thing, and you can even filter it down to what you want for games, player, teams, odds, that type of thing. So guys, unbeatable tool. Link in the pinned comment as well as in the description. Go get your 7 days of Outlier. All right, next up, we got Miami taking on St. Louis, and you'll start to notice that the odds aren't all that great for some of these games today. There's only a few of them that are more in the you could pick money line either side, and it makes sense. This is kind of another one. We have St. Louis at minus 155, Miami at plus 136. Sonny Gray's on the mound for St. Louis, which I really like that side of it. Obviously, he's been pitching really, really well. Braxton Garrett on the bump for Miami, who I don't think that we can really tip our nose at him. He's been pretty decent this season as well. St. Louis hasn't really batted righties well. Hasn't really batted lefties well, and Miami hasn't really been batting righties well, so it's kind of like caught in between a rock and a hard place because I do like Braxton Garrett, but his last start, but his last 2 starts haven't been tremendous, but he's still good, but I think Sonny Gray just has so much of an advantage here, so I'm going to lean towards the heavy favorite again. That's 3 in a row now. This one actually could be a final play, getting St. Louis at minus 155. I wouldn't really play it beyond then. Their bullpen is a little taxed, so that's definitely something worth noting. But Miami, even with a non-taxed bullpen, doesn't have the best bullpen overall. So I'm going to trust Sonny Gray. I'm going to trust the St. Louis lineup here, even though they are kind of bottom third in the league in most offensive categories against lefties in the last 30 days. Miami's in the same boat against righties, you know what I mean? So if we're going to say that those are even, the bats, then I think I have to give Sonny Gray a shot here, where he also has actually his last start was good, but 2 starts before that were kind of shaky. So I think that he's gonna get in a groove and pitch a little bit better. So give me the heavy favorite yet again. This one at least is minus 150 on ESPN. So yeah, minus 150. You can get it at minus 155 still. Maybe kind of sort of that could be a spot, but overall we'll keep an eye on the odds and see what we can get that at, because I do see someone saying, well, that's just too much juice. I'm not going to play it. But to me, that minus 150 may be sort of like the end of the road. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 7.5 right now. Both these bats, I've already said it multiple times, not all that great. So I'll lean towards the under, but I think it's going to be similar to what we did or talked about with the last game. I don't mind taking a peek at, say, a first 5 under in this spot. And you're going to be paying a little bit of juice, but it's almost like paying the juice for, so it's minus 160 on DraftKings for under 4.5. So it's almost like paying the juice for the Cardinals here. So yeah, this is a juicy game no matter what we want, no matter what line we want. But unfortunately, we don't have the most games on the slate today. We're not going to force anything, but you could see a couple heavily juiced plays in the pin comment, not going to lie. All right, finally a game where I do think the odds are a little bit more, consumable on either side here. We have Toronto taking on the Red Sox. Toronto minus 130 on ESPN Bet is your best odds for their money line, and then plus 115 for Boston over on MGM. Boston coming off of a winning series against the Yankees, that's what's kind of great about rivalries and whatnot. Like, obviously the Yankees are a better team than the Red Sox, I would say, and I'm a Red Sox fan saying that, but you have this rivalry. Like, those guys are going to get up, they're going to get excited. The Red Sox win 8-4 and then 9-3 to close that series. Yesterday's game was really interesting, the way some of these runs were coming in, especially like 2 of those 3 Yankees runs were like, what? But nonetheless, Toronto here, and I do think that this is probably a spot for Toronto for me because the Red Sox just had the late night game. Toronto's coming off of a winning series against Cleveland, in which 2 of the games, actually yesterday's game was close, but game number 2, they won 5-0. Kikichi's on the mound though for Toronto, and though he's having a good year and pitching really well at home, he doesn't have the best of records or stats or even, history here against the Red Sox. His last 3 starts against the Red Sox, he's got a 3.7 ERA, averaging just 4 strikeouts per game, 2 walks, 19.8 pitches per inning. So there is a little bit of like, oh, well, do they have his number? Maybe, but after last night's game, the Celtics riding a high, traveling to Toronto now, it's not really a spot for me. So I'm going to lean towards Toronto here on the money line. Nick Pavetta's on the mound for Boston, who he's been pitching really well on the road this year. He's been pitching well overall in the season. So hopefully, Toronto can kind of get to him. I say that from a sports betting perspective, not from a Red Sox fan perspective. But overall, like, Pavetta's had a couple starts in his last 5. So maybe he has another one of those. He's been pitching pretty well against Toronto's, overall a little bit better than Kikichi has against the Red Sox. But we're talking like last year's numbers and whatnot. So give me Toronto here on the money line. In terms of what we're looking at from a total, I don't necessarily think it's going to be like a slugfest or anything like that. So this is another one where we might lean like first 5 under. I don't know if it might be worth taking the full game under, but Toronto's bullpen isn't tremendous. So even now that I say that, it may even be worth considering, Toronto first 5 money line if it is something that we're going to want to roll with, because their bullpen is extremely taxed. The Red Sox not in the best place either, but still, if you're going to have taxed and taxed, I'd take the better bullpen, which is the Red Sox, meaning that Toronto money line play could get screwed once we get to, 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. So maybe this is all a first 5 look all around, because I think it's a little bit more of a controlled substance, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'll lean in that direction. So first 5, Blue Jays first 5 under. In terms of what we're looking at from player props, I like Danny Jansen, under 1.5 bases. He only has 5 bases over his last 10 games. He's hit the under in 8 of his last 10. Going up against Pivetta today, who's going to throw a lot of fastballs and a lot of sliders. Those are his 2 main pitches. Fastballs, Jansen's WOBA drops, and sliders, his WOBA drops significantly as well, which I'm checking this out over on Outlier, so, showing you guys that I actually use it. And what I like is this is the fastball, right? Pivetta loves to throw the fastball up and into righties. He only hits them when they're outside and away. So I think it's a good spot for a pitch that he's going to throw 50% of the time. And then for a slider here, same thing. He likes to throw them down and away from right-handed batters. Look at where he likes to hit the sliders. Kind of mid, in, maybe down and in. So 2 good. These pitches are going to make up what? Call that 49. Call this 27. That's going to make up 56% of his 76% of his arsenal. Like, I do think that we have 2 good pitches here that he's not going to have the best time hitting. So definitely looking at Danny Jansen here under 1.5 bases. King of the bases. I'm feeling it today, guys. All right, Braves taking on Detroit here. Detroit coming off of a losing series against Houston. We're on the right side of that, and thank God we took the Astros when we did, and I didn't check the box about the starting pitcher because Blanco gets subbed in. Their odds go all the way down to, I don't even know, like minus 190. We got them at minus 135 early in the morning, so I liked that spot. But Detroit only looked good in that second game, and it seems like that was more of like a flash in the pan than overall. Atlanta won 2 of 3 against the Braves, and even yesterday they did score 6 runs, so they've had now, 6, 7, 9, 6 runs in their last 4 games here. It's almost like we've been waiting, right? We've been waiting for this Atlanta offense to kind of kick it into gear and continue and blah, blah, blah. So I do think that this Braves offense, I don't want to say they're back. They're missing some pieces. They do obviously have some guys that are out of the lineup. But most notably Acuna, but I think that they could be back to scoring, 5. Like, they're not going to be a dry run lineup. So I think that that's worth considering here, at least on this stretch, because Detroit to me isn't the most go out there and get your runs. Even on the season here, they're just averaging 4.2 runs per game, which is pretty good, but I think you're going to need like 5 or 6 to win this game. That being said, this total is at 8, so it's not like the books are even coming in here thinking that this is going to be a burning type of a game. We have Max Fried on the mound going up against Reese Olson. Reese Olson has had his struggles lately. No one's denying that. You could even make the argument that Max Fried has had his struggles lately. So both these pitchers are good, but have struggled lately. But all of a sudden, this line is at 8 with a Braves team that has been scoring a bunch of runs and a Tigers team that scored 13 runs 2 games ago. So I think that we're looking at a low-scoring game here. And the way that I kind of make sense of that in my mind is think it's going to be a 1-run game either way, and getting Detroit at plus 1.5 for minus 118 right now, actually minus 110 over on ESPN Bet, may be the move. We're putting a lot of trust into Reese Olson here, but his expected WOBA today is at 287. I don't mind it, and the Braves aren't all that great against right-handed pitchers. So yeah, I think that the Tigers keep this game close, but I don't think it's the reasoning. If I were to kind of give you a summary of that, it's because this total is at 8, and the Braves have been scoring like 6+ runs themselves. So I think that the books are saying, yep, they're about to have a little bit of regression here offensively, and this is probably going to be like a 5-4 game or a 4-3 game. I'll put that 1.5 runs in my pocket for Detroit. Probably going to be like completely off. Like, we're going to look back and be like, oh, so it was an 8-0 game. That's why the total is 8. But nonetheless, I do think that this could be a decent spot here. For what it's worth, Fried throws a lot of fastballs. Ninth team in terms of runs above average against fastballs is Detroit. Now, in terms of total, kind of already tipped my hand here. I think this could be an under. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to be betting it. I think almost like a Nerfy could be in play as well. In terms of what you're getting for a Nerfy, let's see if I can find some odds on that really quickly. I just think that, Reese Olson and Fried through the first inning, under 0.5 runs in the first inning for minus 120 on FanDuel is pretty damn worth it. So I think that could be a final play as well. That's almost the way that we bet the under without betting the under. And no major player props in this spot that I'm liking. There are some basis props that I've considered. Vierling under 1.5 bases, Ibanez under 1.5 bases, Riley under 1.5 bases, and Duvall under 1.5 bases. But still want to kind of dive in and look at those. Those just came up in my formula, the king of the bases formula. So we shall see. But overall, guys, I think I like Detroit plus the 1.5 and a Nerfy in this one. And before we move on, I got a question. Do you guys like Nerfies better or Yerfies? So no runs in the first inning, NRFI, or yes runs in the first inning, YRFI. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Nerfy, just by saying NRFI in the comments, or Yerfy, yes runs in the first inning, YRFI in the comments. I want to know because I think Nerfies are the more popular bet. People root for 0-0, and we definitely play more Nerfies than we do Yerfies. But, Yerfies sometimes have the better odds and the plus money value, and it's kind of a coin flip type bet. So, my strategy on coin flips, like take the plus side. So, yeah, let me know in the comments, Yerfy or Nerfy. I'm very curious to see because I think Nerfies are, the vocal majority, which I guess would just be the majority in general. But I think that Yerfies could be some that a lot of people don't look into as much as Nerfies, and why not, right? Like, look for 2 bad pitchers, 2 good hitting lineups, go get a run in the first inning type of thing. So let me know in the comments. All right, Texas taking on the Mets. Now, the Mets had a good, a good showing in their last series here. We already talked about it against San Diego. They won 2-1, 5-1, 11-6. Texas gets swept by Seattle, and now I do think they have a little bit of an upper hand in this series as David Peterson's on the mound for the Mets. He hasn't looked all that great. Just 3 starts on the season, but a 4.3 ERA, a FIP of 4.5, a WHIP of 1.5. Going up against John Gray, who John Gray has had some rough starts, had some good starts, but overall, like, he's actually been, I don't want to say Mr. Consistent, but I'm liking what John Gray has done so far. He didn't pitch deep into the game last game because he's kind of getting hit around, but he only allowed 1 earned run through 3 innings. So yes, you don't want your pitcher going 3 innings, but I don't mind the spot. The Mets definitely have the better bullpen, and I would say the better offense as well, but can we trust David Peterson? That's going to be a no for me, dog. There's only 2 lefties in this lineup, or I think 3, including Lindor, who's a switch. And that's where John Gray's weakness is against lefties, but he's dynamite against righties so far this season. So give me Texas on the money line here. You can get them right now at -124. So I kind of like that spot for them. The Mets are playing way better baseball. I think they've won 9 of their last 11, if I'm not mistaken, whereas Texas only won 4 of their last 10. So I understand that we're probably missing out on a team that maybe has plus money behind them, but they're one of the hotter teams in the league right now. But David Peterson throws a bunch of ice onto the fire. That's how I view it. So give me Texas here on the money line, but probably the first 5 money line overall. In terms of the total, I think this is going to be an over-type game. I could say a 5-4 win for Texas, something like that, but I would more or less consider that Texas first 5 than anything, when it comes to total, because what if David Peterson goes out there and throws a gem? And I also think we're kind of having to bank on, I guess I would say, John Gray to pitch a good game, right? So if he's going to go out there and pitch a good game, I don't really want to have to rely on, some runs to come in. So probably going to look at the money line more than I do the total at all in this spot. No player props as of right now, but as always, keep an eye on the pin comment to see if we end up rolling with anything. All right, next up, we got the Cubs taking on San Francisco here. San Francisco plus money is going to be my lean in this spot. You have Jordan Hicks on the mound for them, who, he's had a couple, I would say, more or less inconsistent starts. Or I guess they are consistently not that great the last few. Going up against Carne Asada here, Javier Assad, but he's also not looked all that tremendous in his last few starts. On the season, you can make an argument for either one of them, so I'm not here to do that. They're both pitching slightly above average, I would say. But this San Francisco lineup here, I do believe, has slightly more of an advantage when it comes to their offense, and you're getting them for plus money. So I think this game is a lot closer than people indicate, and I'll take the team that's plus 106 over on FanDuel. But it's probably going to be, I feel like I've said this a million times in today's video, it's probably going to be a first 5 play because almost everybody in the San Francisco bullpen went yesterday. So you can get San Francisco still for the first 5 at plus 102. So still a plus money play. You lose a little bit of those odds, but nonetheless, still going to be a spot in which I think it's worth rolling the dice on a plus money team here. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 9.5. I guess I'm going to trust the reason being why this is so over. I think we have a little bit of wind still blowing out here for in Wrigley like we did yesterday. So this is probably a decent spot for potential over. Yesterday I said it, right? When the Cubs played St. Louis, I was like, the total's 11. Like, I like the over. I'm not going to bet it because somehow with all these indicators that it's going to be a high-scoring game, it's probably going to be like 1-0. What was it, 2-1? So it could be something like that again, but there could be some runs built up and that, the baseball gods are owed in this game. But give me San Francisco. It's not necessarily betting against Carne Asada. It's more or less backing the San Francisco lineup. A player prop that I like in this one, and we're looking at a plus 150 play here. So this is definitely a play that maybe it's a half unit play or something like that, but understand it's plus 150. It's going to be Pete Crow Armstrong under 0.5 hits. So let's break it down. On the season, he's batting 207. That's not all that great. Against right-handed pitchers, he's batting 205, so even worse. Jordan Hicks does fairly well against left-handed batters, right? But this is what I'm liking. He's going to throw the sinker a lot. Okay, his K rate goes up from 24 to 30, so that's great. His WOBA goes from 245 to 125. This is 51% of the pitches that Hicks is going to throw. Then he goes to the splitter. All right, well, his K rate jumps to 33.3, WOBA 200, and then he goes to the slider as his last pitch. K rate drops, okay, whatever, but his WOBA is still at 234. So I think we have a really good spot here for a potential plus 150 casher. So we're going to go ahead and probably take a peek at that. It is plus 150. I don't know if we're going to have the cojones to roll with that with a full unit, but I like the spot. But obviously a plus 150 play, anything's going to happen there, right? So we'll see. All right, Colorado Dodgers. This one doesn't interest me all that much, if I'm being honest. You have James Paxton on the mound going up against Cal Quantrill. I think that Colorado can, I'll sound the cycle alert alarm. I'm not saying that they win this game, but I do think that they could potentially hang in this game, like maybe a 6-5 game, something like that. So I could, and just because of James Paxton, by the way, and Mookie being out, like there are some things that I do like about this spot, but it's not like I'm trying to back the Rockies all that much. But for -102, near even odds to get them at +1.5, it's probably the way that I would lean in this one. But again, like I don't think that I'm going to sit here and try and blow smoke up your ass saying we're going to try and go out there and back Colorado, really. Up against still, even without Mookie, a very good lineup, obviously, right? But Cal Quantrill's been pitching well. As weird as it is and crazy as it is to say, he has been pitching well. He's good against lefties. There's a few lefties in this lineup. Shohei, Hayward, you know what I mean? Like, it could be a spot in a flyer. So I don't think that I can get to them, like I mentioned. I don't think I can get to them necessarily on the money line, but to give me a 1.5 run in their pocket, it's probably, honestly, if we're going to bet that, we might as well bet the money line. So one of those two could be something that I consider, but you can probably hear the in my voice, right? You're betting on the Rockies still, regardless of who they're playing. So it's going to be a tough spot, but they have, taken, a game in each of their last 4 series. Who's to say this isn't the game that they take, right? Cal Quantrill, like I said, has been pitching fairly well. They're 3-2 in his last 5 starts. We'll see. In terms of the total here, I think this is probably an over-type spot because even if this game goes nothing like I'm saying, I do still think James Paxton can allow at least, a few runs here. And if the Dodgers just do what they could do and should do, they probably go out there and smack Cal Quantrill if they're hot. So I'll lean over, even though I love to fade the altitude, just not today. But you know what? Honestly, that Rockies money line is kind of tempting. I could be, we'll sound it again. I could be betting Rockies money line today, which sounds so crazy. All right, Angels taking on Milwaukee here. Milwaukee's trotting out, I believe, a pitcher, Carlos Rodriguez, who only has 1 start on the year and didn't look all that great. For his first start, I guess didn't look terrible. You can make the argument, right? He went 3 2/3, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks, but did allow 7 hits against Toronto. But he's going up against Jose Soriano, and how many of those types of games has Jose Soriano had this season, right? He did pitch a really good game last game, but I expect Soriano to kind of come back down to earth, so I'll take Milwaukee here on the money line. They do have the better bullpen as well. Fairly taxed bullpen, but overall, I like to have that full game because even if they can go and get to the Angels bullpen, I do think that that's an advantage as well. They had 4 guys go yesterday, and many guys have pitched 2 of the last 3 days. So, give me Milwaukee on the money line. I'm trying to kind of ignore the fact that we have an unproven pitcher on the mound, but definitely a better offense on the Milwaukee side of things. So I'll take them on the money line. When it comes to a total here, this probably sits right around 8 to me, like a 5-3 or maybe even like a 4-3 game. So I'm going to lean towards the under. And I also don't mind, this is going to sound kind of crazy with the pitching that's on the mound. I don't mind Nerfy, just given the fact that obviously the Angels haven't seen anything from Carlos Rodriguez. And Jose Soriano, if we're going to give him any credit, getting through that order 1 time could be his best opportunity. So as weird as it is, I like the Nerfy in this spot as well. And then no player props as of right now that I'm like head over heels about. But like I keep saying, and I've said it a million times in this video, right? Keep an eye on that pinned comment because we're doing research constantly throughout the day. So make sure to check that out and see if we throw in any more player props. Guys, that is going to wrap for me today. Honestly, I can't thank you guys enough. I say that every single video is probably getting old at this point, but even yesterday, I played golf with my dad, and then obviously he's been there every step of the way as we're transitioning to full-time doing this, and the scariness of it and all that, and we're just talking about how crazy this has become, the fact that this is what I'm waking up and doing, 7 days a week. So it's so reinforcing every single time to be able to, we're growing. We're doing better. We're building a better and better community, and that part is all on you guys. I can only show up and do my thing. You guys are so respectful, receptive, reciprocative. Like, is that a word? But you know what I mean? Like, appreciate the hell out of you guys. Rant over. I know we're getting too sappy at the end of these videos. We got to stay strong. We're a man, right? No, but in all seriousness, guys, I do appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.